Hola, buenas tardes.
Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to tell you that the presenter for this should have been Miguel Brechner, and he couldn't come. And Miguel is on a trip right now for two reasons. For these two big reasons, who are his first grandchildren as a father. As a first-time father, I had experience, but first-time grandfathers are even worse than parents. So he's right now in London taking care of his grandchildren. So I am filling in for him right now. And I want to tell you about this Ceibal plan. When we thought about our presentation for this meeting, we realized that it's been quite a long time since we made our last presentation in terms of where we stand at this Ceibal plan. We have presented it many times in Uruguay in several spheres, but it's been quite a long time since we last made an overview about it. And it would be a good opportunity to analyze where we stand right now, which are our main issues right now, which are our challenges. So, very briefly, I will mention 3 or 4 main aspects of the origins of a project that really transformed and is transforming Uruguay. And we've always said that this was based on 3 pillars. It's a project of social inclusion, of equality of opportunities, and it's a project of learning and teaching. Right now, we have been working for more than 7 years since the beginning of the plan. The number of beneficiaries is almost reaching 670,000. It covers primary school, secondary education, not only from the public sector but also from the private sector, with many institutions which are working with the plan. So there's full coverage. But when we say coverage for what? Ceibal had several stages. The first stage was we would like to cover all the country, all the children. That was done in several steps. It took a while to get there. But the point is what we were trying to obtain. This was not a project that was essentially technological or merely technological. It's a project where the aim is to achieve equal opportunities in terms of digital access. So access to computers was one of the goals. And these are the numbers in terms of how the country changed in the lower income quintiles. From 2007 onwards, the change is major. Also, Ceibal as a plan per se, as a policy per se, but within the framework of other actions, represents a major change in the use of the Internet and on the use of resources. Uruguay is now positioned first at a regional level in terms of Internet usage, and that is because of the access of the whole population, and therein children and students in general. Access is one of the main issues. Ceibal laptops impact on school, but they are also impacting families, so that impact is also seen in changes in social practices, communications between teachers and the family, with an ever-growing impact. And now this is part of the natural scenario. Somehow, when you go abroad, you see that Uruguay equals Plan Ceibal. Of course, people tend to associate Uruguay more with soccer player Luis Suarez, but the Ceibal plan is getting there among the top 10 of Uruguayan references. I would say maybe among the top 5. When you say Uruguay, people think about Ceibal plan and this experience. And many people have come here to see this, and we are being invited to tell about this, share experiences, so that others can learn from things that are being done here and in other places. Ceibal is born as a national project, and it is a national project. From 2 points of view. From the point of view of national coverage, because Ceibal began in the homeland departments of the country, but also it is a cross-cutting project because it not only belongs to educational places. There are Ceibal centers in squares and neighborhoods in underprivileged areas where there is internet access for the community, which is managed as part of the Ceibal network, which ultimately means access to that network by any user that has one of the devices of this plan. The plan has coverage in training centers for teachers, etc. This plan has coverage in project developments, housing projects, sorry. There are many access points that are in housing projects, thus trying to expand coverage so that it is not only encompassing schools. Of course, we are including secondary education, technical education, and schools. So this is Ceibal coverage, 98% of the country with 2,400 schools, but this is complemented, this is supplemented. So this extension, which is the extension of the whole country, is the expansion of the roles and practices, because this is now common to see in many countries that children are in squares doing some sort of activity that's linked to education. The next item, one thing was the logistic operation for this, related to the distribution of equipment and having around 700,000 equipment working. At a certain moment, we might have 30 or 40,000 machines that are out of order. Of course, you might say we have 40,000 Ceibal laptops that are not working. It's a huge number. Well, but it's 5%, which is a normal cycle of repairs of such a high number. So that failure rate is within the standards with which we are being measured in terms of other networks. The next step after machines was connectivity ensured by the network. But the next step is high quality connectivity. So we started working in terms of taking optic fiber to urban schools. Now in 2014 we will be reaching 1,300 educating centers with high quality and high speed optic fiber. Of all those, we installed a video conference network. In 2013 we had 800 centers, and now we are reaching 1,300 centers. This means that besides from having optic fibers in schools, we have rooms equipped with 50-inch TV sets and with everything related to having point-to-point conferences from one school to another. And whenever we have to have a conference call among several points, then we have to go through the central service. And this has given a dynamic to the use that's really important. Many times inspectors, school inspectors that had to go to other departments of the country now can do that through a conference by saving resources, but also this is now part of their activity and they can be part of those meetings too. However, equipment, network, high-quality communications, and high-speed communications, that's all we have. But then we have the problem of technology not being the end itself. It's just part of the problem. We're talking about having important interventions and education, and this deals with pedagogy, and this needs to take us from the 21st century. And there we made some decisions, strong decisions, important decisions in Ceibal. For example, we do not provide software training in the sense that this should be done this way. No, what we try is, well, we actually have software that's user-friendly, that teachers can adopt, and based on that, much of what is conceived as classic manual training is left aside. Of course, we are on top of many changes that the world will have to endure at a social level, and teachers are pushing along the same direction we are going. The next thing is, what services did we set up? And that's a world of platform. The platform of CREA, which are virtual classrooms. Then we have the digital library, where every child can access more than 500 titles. The adaptational mathematical platform, where students can do math exercises within the framework of an intelligent system that's capable of telling them how to continue studying. This is an agreement with Petamax, which is a German company. Here we have a peak, a workload peak during the week, because this is how we run championships. For example, last year we had a math championship, and those who won could be able to go to a World Cup match from Uruguay with Argentina. So that's part of the landscape of the things we do in Ceibal. We have set up a system for online assessment from 1st to 6th grade, which allows one teacher to assess his group vis-a-vis other groups in terms of national averages. We also had problems in terms with English teachers in Uruguay. We don't have enough English teachers in Uruguay. Video conference rooms and networks had as a main objective to be able to set up a system for teaching English with teachers that were not there, and then with teachers that might have been in Argentina, Colombia, or Philippines through an agreement with the British Council. Ceibal in English will have 100,000 students for 4,000 groups. Now we have 50,000 students. We are also teaching how to program. We have launched different courses. We are now programming in Android. We are having projects for the participation in video games, in mathematics, chess, etc. There's a platform with sensors, robots, and this is for medium education, where the old computing room turned into a place where you can run experiments and use technology in a much more creative way. But also, in terms of the concern for teaching issues, deals with participating in a network, which is the network linked to deep learning, where we have 100 centers per country. And this country encompasses 10 countries, among which Uruguay, the US, and Canada are, together with the main European countries, Australian countries, and Hong Kong. And we're participating there with our teachers, and they're part of this project that will change teaching practices. And this is a research project. So this is only beginning. We don't have any results yet. But this is a very strong line of work. Costs, well, they don't matter so much. But to conclude, because I think that I am about to conclude the time for my presentation, I wanted to talk about the challenges. Which are the challenges that we have from Ceibal and the challenges for the technological community? Which are the issues? What have we done in terms of that link with the technological community? And what are we thinking towards the future? First, we are thinking about customizing education. How can we educate in a different way to those who are different? What is being done with the people from Betamax in the adaptational mathematics platform is one part, but we need those type of platforms for every domain in learning, because technology now allows us to dream, but we need to work along that direction in order to be able to try to treat differently those that are differently, in order to be able to give teachers a training tool for having information as to how the student is doing. How does this adaptational mathematic platform work? It is used for giving exercises as a whole reading part, but that's not the interesting thing about it. The teacher can indicate a set of exercises. Students begin to do those exercises. The platform will detect what type of mistakes are being made in those exercises and will recommend students to maybe strengthen a certain area or another, and will be giving information to the teacher. And even better, it's giving students who are doing better, it's offering them a path to follow. So the student that has some difficulties, well, then the teacher will support him through the platform, and the child that has no difficulties, that is doing well, he won't be bored in class, and he won't be demanding other sort of attention. So the general performance of the classroom changes, and the perception of the teacher also changes. The adoption rate for this mathematics platform is right now being very evident in terms of the leap between 2013 and 14. More and more teachers are using it. They see it as something available. There's some sort of contagion effect. They're seeing that the teachers who are not using this math platform, then colleagues are telling those teachers, hey, you should use this, it's good. So there's that issue of ownership, of customizing. That's very important. There is no customizing if teachers don't use tools in a good way. And most times they don't use them good per decree. You cannot say, well, they should be used as from April 1st in such and such a way. That doesn't work in any place, in any company, and will not work in education. You cannot get to a school and tell them we're going to run a training program. That doesn't work. What does work is to show cases, to convince, of course, to do training, but to have the software that's user-friendly, and to have ongoing communications and to have everything operational so that technology can be as transparent as possible, but that it becomes a tool and not something that annoys teachers. If teachers feel annoyed because they have to use it and they would rather use a chalk or paper, then they won't use it. And that's a long story of all the different initiatives when teaching IT. It's not about introducing technology into education. It's about teachers having the most adequate tools for teaching. So this math platform is working along those lines. We don't have a language platform. We don't have a Spanish platform. And that's a problem. It's a serious problem. We all know that if we want to have a postgraduate degree on an American university, we need more than a certain score on TOEFL. And if we want to go to England, we need to have passed the Cambridge test and other tests with different names. And if you need to study in Spanish, what levels do you have? Well, we don't know. Some people say, I've tried to study Spanish 3 times in my life, and I had 3 different methodologies, and I have no certification whatsoever. I remember someone from Latvia who was working in an international organization, and there's a hole there. We need a platform for teaching the language that is oriented to students and also that is oriented to standards, which is something that we have for the English language, but we don't even have anything closer with Spanish. Then in terms of science, we have done an interesting work with a local company, which is called Edu Editorial. We have a program for 5th and 6th grade physics and chemistry, which is set up in an e-book, but not just an e-book, not the Kindle, a true e-book. That is to say, we have a digital book, but there are videos and exercises and random things. Sometimes you get one exercise, other times you get another exercise. So there's a 21st century type text and not a text from the 20th century that has been digitalized. Here we have a whole element of creation. There's also a technological thing that we have in terms of the update of the whole network. We also need to we have a strong thing here, which is technology. When we started with Ceibal, the model was the netbook. In 2007, we had no tablets, and we didn't have any netbooks. Netbooks were just beginning to appear. Nowadays, we're in the world of tablets. So what do we need to do in primary education? Do we need to add tablets? But if we have tablets, they will have no keyboard, and if they have to write. So that's a very rich debate that we are having now. Ceibal for primary education up to 2nd grade, they're using tablets. From 3rd to 6th grade, they're starting to use a dual platform, which is XO, which is a touch technology machine which also has a keyboard. And then in intermediate education, they're using a netbook, which is some sort of regular desktop machine. So the major doubt is what will happen about tablets, and we don't know. That's the answer. We don't know what's happening with them. If we don't know if they mean a threat, will we still have netbooks below $200 that we might be able to buy in 50,000 quantities, or would that trigger the prices? So we need to have a generation of applications, typically on Android, which is a platform that we chose, that might function on tablets and that are oriented towards education. And there we have a market problem, which is a major challenge, a technical challenge. It's a challenge of building that generation of applications. Everything would tell us that in order that we should think about the Android platform for educational purposes. Ceibal is a window display. This presentation which is from the Watson Research Center of IBM of the World Congress of London Education. So Ceibal is a player. Ceibal is in the group of the 15 global institutions that are working in educational research directed by Fulham, which is one of the global reference centers. But that challenge is the challenge of how we from Ceibal are capable of telling you about our problems and the things that we are needing. So this is somehow what I wanted to tell you today. The other new thing is that next year we will try to set up a research center. That's what we're doing right now. This will be something next to Ceibal. Ceibal is an operational institution. It is efficient and will need to continue to be efficient. It is extremely efficient. It is managing a network of more than 700,000 700,000 users with less than 300 employees. So we need to be at the level of what our positioning at a local level with our users and our global positioning imply. So this research center is something that we've been working on. We're trying to conclude it, and we might launch it in 2015. So this is where we are now. The idea is to meet you next year, so that you can tell us all the things that you're doing in terms of education, about Android platforms, and that you can tell us about tablets and netbooks. We think that this might be going along this direction or another. You might tell us about an engine for teaching languages. This is something that we think, and these are the things that were complicating us. So these are the things that we need to work on in order to move on. Thank you very much.